Episode 2 of the Racetruck Chronicles. If you haven't seen episode 1, I suggest you go back and watch it. It talks about us originally buying it, making a street truck, some of the trials we went through, and then eventually deciding to turn it into a full-on race truck. So right at the end of the last video, we did a 4-wheel drive swap. We switched to a 4R transmission. Now the 5R, we never actually blew up the 5R transmission. It just shifted funny. Anyone that switched will tell you the 4R shifts how you want it to shift, when you want it to shift, and it allows it to go faster, make more power, and be more consistent. So the 5R, if any of you guys are thinking about it, it's fine, it's good for a street truck, but sometimes it shifts and sometimes it doesn't. I can literally tell you if someone's running a 5R when they go down the racetrack, because you can hear the shifts are just early, late, sometimes it bounces off the rev limiter. So that's why I went to a 4R swap. I'm gonna say after a lot of Chris at TSD giving me a hard time. That guy knows this stuff, and he had realized way ahead of us that the 5R was kind of a waste of time in a race truck. So with his help, we did a 4R swap, 4-wheel drive swap. We were starting to go a lot faster, doing a lot better. We had those big compounds on there, and we did okay at UCC, but from a fault of our own, we had a short shift and blew the motor. So in the PCS, which we were running, there was Tune A and Tune B, and the whole time we had been messing with just Tune A. For some reason, we never figured out when you press the brake pedal on the truck, it would switch from Tune A to Tune B. We had no idea it was doing that. So when we went to stage at UCC, it switched from Tune A, which is the one we had tuned, and to Tune B, which we had never changed. And so it short shifted all the nitrous, all the boost, and just blew the motor up at UCC. So that was pretty heart-wrenching. It was rough. We decided after that, with our failures with DPC and them never doing it again, us trying to make like a halfway street truck, halfway race truck, we decided to go all in. We cut off the bed, cut off the front clip, and totally redid the truck. So a lot of the reason we cut off the front clip, a lot of people think it was to save weight. And it did save a little bit of weight, but the big reason we cut off the front clip is it makes it easier to work on. We found bending over the fender wells and not having a reach lift at the events made it really hard to work on the truck. You know, you would lean over the front clip so much your stomach would just get these red marks and sores and bruises on it. Well, you cut off the front clip, it takes about 1 minute, you got the whole front clip off, and now you got access to the whole engine. Second thing is, the compounds worked great, but having one turbo in the valley and one turbo on the side of the engine also made it really hard to work on stuff. At Rudy specifically, we had an exhaust bellow blow, which was ran behind the engine and up to the valley turbo. Well, to get to that, you got to pull the whole compound kit off. You got to pull off the valley turbo, you got to pull off all the piping, and it made it a pain in the butt. We got that fixed, put it back together. I think I remember right, we had an injector that was sticking. Well, we had to pull the whole compound kit off again to get to it. So when we were thinking about doing the front clip to make it easier to work on, we also decided to do a front mount single turbo, which a lot of race trucks do, and a lot of it save weight, easier to access, but it makes the whole engine itself easier to work on. From what would take an hour to pull an injector and swap it, you can do it in about 10 to 15 minutes now. It just makes it so easy to get in, get to the internals, to work on stuff, to access stuff in the valley, and if you blow an exhaust bellow or blow a turbo, it's right up there in front and easy to work on. Yeah, at that event, I remember specifically Jared at Kill Devil Diesel being there with his monster hands, just ripping parts out of the way, just trying to get things in place, out of place, back to the race, which I think we just barely missed by just a couple of minutes. They were calling us to the line, and we didn't make it. And we literally lost because we couldn't get the truck back together in time. It wasn't like a big problem, but because the way the truck was set up with the compound kit in the valley, up on the side of the motor, bellows behind the motor, it made it really hard to work on. So that was a lot of the reason we changed things up, was the cursing and the strain and the upset headaches of having to work on it. So this time around, as long as we were going to cut up that beautiful street truck, we were going to do it right, or at least what we felt was right, and what other people were telling us helped them was front mount turbo kit. Easy to access the turbo, easy to access the bellows, makes the whole engine easy to work on. Front clip, easy to remove, easy to access, made everything easy to work on. We also switched up the radiator. We put the radiator in the bed, got rid of the OEM style because we cut the whole front clip off. We also got rid of the water to air intercooler we were running. We figured it'd be simpler not to have the water pumps, not to have to worry about filling that up. And there was a lot of water lines, and we were afraid our intercooler was maybe a little too small. Because it was a street truck, we kind of crammed a water to air intercooler in between the front bumper and the radiator. And now that we had all the room in the world, we decided to do what's called an ice box. Or dry ice box. It's kind of a water to air or ice to air intercooler, but there's no pumps involved. You pop off the front lid, you fill it with ice or you fill it with water, and you get kind of all the benefits of our water to air intercooler without having to have the extra water tank, the extra water lines, the water pump, the electricity running to it, kicking the water pumps on and off. So we were pretty excited about that. So with this new setup, we kept the 4R, we kept the 4-wheel drive, we kept the leaf springs in the back. We actually used the stock coils from the 2-wheel drive truck, and we just cut them down to size. We used the stock 2-wheel drive buckets. We used the 4-wheel drive stock control arms, 4-wheel drive front axle. So we mix and match basically a stock front end, except for I believe they were double adjustable QA1 shocks. Other than that, it was all stock up front. People kept asking, well, what's your 4-link like up front? It wasn't. It was stock front suspension in the front, stock rear leafs with a couple of leafs removed in the rear, and then some OUO traction bars, which were amazing. We loved that setup. That truck always went straight. It cut 1/360 foots all day long. Didn't have to fight it going down the track. It just went smooth and great. In fact, it was one of my favorite suspensions we ran so far. It just worked. People thought we had a fancy 4-link up front and rear, or I don't know, coils in the front and rear, but it was just stock coils, not coilovers up front, and then stock leafs in the back, and it just worked. Stock axles, front and rear, stock transfer case, stock drive shafts, except it was shortened for the short bed, and other than that, the suspension just worked. It just happened to fall together, never had to do much adjustment to it, and it just always went down the track straight. But with the big single turbo up front, we did struggle a lot more getting the turbo to spool up. You know, going from compounds to a big single, it was a struggle. Especially we learned later on in life that the dry ice box didn't help. So the intake air temperature was so cold, and it was so hard to get the turbo to spool, and we were using nitrous to spool the turbo. We had a lot of embarrassing track events when it got cold where we literally just could not get the turbo to spool. It would sputter, it would backfire. We tried adding less nitrous and then it wouldn't come up. We'd add more nitrous and it'd backfire. There's many a nights when during the day, truck ran great. Second the sun went down and got cool out, we could not get the turbo to come up. But overall, it ran fairly well. We got to spool great. We started working with Go-Rend converters who have been amazing. They've got a lot of different options on the stall, and they literally tailored it to what we need to get the turbo to come up and to get it to light better and to get it moving.